some thoughts this morning on ayahuasca and birth and the relationship between the two. For those of you that are new to my work, I would say that what I bring into the realm of ancient traditional Amazonian medicine is pre and perinatal awareness. And what I bring into the world of pre and perinatal psychology is awareness of these ancient traditional medicines. And I think that the two are very much not just connected, but interconnected and inseparable. I've witnessed thousands and thousands of people go through deeply transformational experiences inside the medicine world, in the Amazon jungle of Peru and elsewhere. And what I began to really pick up on after a while was that inevitably, when somebody sits with the medicine, they are re-experiencing their births. And that's true whether they're aware of it or not. And I would actually go one step further to say, even the way that one prepares for their ayahuasca ceremony is very telling about maybe what their experience was coming into this life. And so, ayahuasca, I believe, is inherent in each and every one of us. This is the original primordial force of life energy, the very energy that spiraled each and every one of us into form. Some people call it the kundalini, the prana, mana, chi, sexual energy, our life force energy. Ayahuasca is a particular spirit that embodies that which is inherent in us. And so, depending on our relationship with what could also be called power in general, it can do all kinds of things to us. I mean, definitely ego inflation is a possibility, and any number of things. I believe that en route to preparing for an ayahuasca journey, one would really benefit from being coherent with their own pre and perinatal experiences. So that way, when all of this knowledge and wisdom and awareness and insight and power comes in, all of this information from the spirit world, from other dimensions comes in, it can actually organize correctly inside of your system. If your relationship to power, which is what our mothers actually represent to us when we're growing in her womb and when we are, after we're born, if our relationship with that source, with the mother, with the feminine, with power, with the kundalini, with creation energy, is not straight, is not, if that relationship is off, then our relationship with ayahuasca can go very off. And this is a very nuanced thing, and it's actually part of a much deeper conversation, which isn't really the focus for this. I want to just bring some ideas, some insights today, and perspectives around the similarities between ayahuasca ceremony and birth. So I have also said many, many times that, ayahuasca, she shows us, and she does a really good job, incredibly sophisticated, wondrous, miraculous job at showing us the energy of creation, that energy that is us. Birth is the actual manifestation and the literal experience of that energy. So when a woman is birthing, that primordial energetic force of life force energy, call it the kundalini, call it Christ consciousness, the Holy Spirit, there's all kinds of names for this, is coming through a woman. And her body quite literally opens to make room for that energy of the entire universe to pass through. So of course, a lot of you know that my work is in and around the psycho-spiritual dimensions of birth. What I would say here is that in preparation for an ayahuasca ceremony, you prepare, you clean your diet first. You start to, so there's what's called a dieta, which is what one follows, hopefully, before they sit in an ayahuasca ceremony. And that diet consists of at least a few weeks, and in some cases with certain pharmaceutical medications and supplements, it would be a few months. But in the kind of in a nutshell, one would, for a few months before, take out pharmaceutical drugs, and for at least a few weeks before, one would take out psychedelics and recreational drugs and painkillers and over-the-counter medications. And even a couple of weeks before, one begins to clean up their diet. So maybe 2 weeks before, they stop eating pork, and that's a conversation on its own. But then 1 week before, they cut out, and 2 weeks before, alcohol, marijuana, these things. And then 1 week before, they're cutting out sugars and maybe salts and oils, or at least a few days before. And so the reason I'm explaining this, and not in any level of depth, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is just to illuminate that there's a process that one goes through to actually help the cleaning and the preparation for ayahuasca to come in. There's a process that one goes through to actually make space for this powerful, pure consciousness to come in. And when ayahuasca comes into our bodies, she comes into our spirit, she comes into our mind, and she alters everything. She cleans our thoughts, she cleans our spirits, she cleans our bodies from all of the low vibrational energies and toxicity that we've been accumulating, minimum through this lifetime and maybe longer than that. But we help that process by preparing. If we went into an ayahuasca ceremony and we'd just been eating greasy foods and processed foods and smoking cigarettes and drinking wine and having a toke and all of this, or watching CNN or the worldly affairs on the news or scrolling social media, the dieta comprises actually much more than just the physical dietary needs. The dieta comprises also like clearing out your conscious, your subconscious, being very aware of what you're bringing into your system, to your body, to your mind, to your spirit. So that ayahuasca can come in, because those energies, these dense energies, are very, very dense in this realm, for that higher dimensional energy to come in. So if you wouldn't do these things, if you just finish a day of work and you had a glass of wine yesterday after work and you've been scrolling Instagram and being in this crazy worldly affairs, then you sit in an ayahuasca ceremony, it's going to be very, very, very difficult. A point that I want to make here is that birth, the moment a girl is conceived, she becomes a mother. And when a woman gives birth, this is a massive illumination experience of not just the pregnancy, but her entire lifetime of experiences, of traumas, of body memories, of interactions, everything that she has experienced throughout her entire life is going to come up at that time. You're making room for the brightest, most powerful, pure, pristine consciousness to go through you. And so it's very, very, very similar to ayahuasca. I would just say that giving birth is actually much more powerful. What's important is that we recognize that this power, this energy, the sexual energy, the creation energy, the energy of birth, it's all the same thing. And there's actually been people write books also on, I really wish I could, I think there's a book called, I'm going to put it in the comments because it's an incredible book. I believe it's Birth, Wild and Sacred. I'm just forgetting the author right now, but this is all about how birth is actually the incoming of the Holy Spirit. So these concepts and these perspectives have been almost entirely lost from our culture, it's safe to say, actually, if one is to remember their inherent power and ability to give birth. They really need to step not only outside of our culture, but outside of our species. Yeah, so these are just some thoughts this morning. I mean, this video could literally be like 10 videos. There's a lot here and a lot to consider. But what I want to just leave on is that giving birth is the most powerful ceremony of one's entire life. And it does not mean that everybody needs to give birth. I think even making the conscious decision to not have children is just as powerful. But the key here is that we all need to come back into right relationship with this energy of creation, with this power, our sexual energy source. And I would say that if we look around and we see all the violence and all the segregation and all the mere disconnect from nature and from ourselves, actually, it's the result of a very successful disconnection process that we've had with our sexual energy. And ayahuasca actually embodies that. So there's a lot of similarities. I really do believe that one of the most important ways to prepare for an ayahuasca ceremony is becoming aware and bringing understanding to what was your experience coming into your life, and beginning to just mend some of the core misunderstandings that were set up in your life or in your body, in your mind, and in your spirit through those early experiences. And likewise, to really help land and integrate the wisdom, the knowledge, the insight that comes through those transcendental experiences like ayahuasca facilitates. Healing your own birth and pre-birth experiences will absolutely help that process. And preparing for birth, like you're preparing for the grandest ceremony of your life, and cleaning and clearing your body and your mind and your spirit in preparation for that journey is, and doing the emotional, psychological, spiritual work, before conception, ideally, is how we're going to proceed from here. The mere fact that we've actually forgotten what birth is has absolutely paralyzed us from being able to claim the power, the healing, and the transformation that's available to us through that experience.